and no one referred me to nurses or to the ambulance or anything else. I didn't know I was kicked because apparently I blacked out momentarily, and said, I think I have a 1-year recovery. And so, sorry.
It's not who you are.
So devastating. So devastating. Okay. I will not get emotional.
In this video, I'm going to be interviewing a woman
Her
named
audio
Amanda,
is
who
very
competed
low.
in Mr. Beast Games. She suffered a traumatic brain injury during the games that continues to negatively affect her life many months after competing. Amanda has a PhD in political science and is best known for her online community, Eat Like a Bear, where she shared her weight loss journey with the world. This continues to help people, especially women and older women, to lose weight, eat healthier, and be more active. However, because of her injury, Amanda is unable to fully do the work that she did before the Beast Games. She told me her financial situation
low.
is the worst she can ever remember because of her injury. I'll be starting a GoFundMe to help with Amanda's recovery and treatments. If you'd like to support her, I'll put a link down below, and all of the money, the profits, go directly to her and her recovery. So YouTube's most successful creator, Jimmy Donaldson, Mr. Beast, has his own version of real-life Squid Games, Beast Games, coming out now. Beast Games has received a lot of negative press surrounding things such as many injuries on set, lack of access to medication, and in some cases life-saving medication, understaffed medical crew, multiple seizures, misplaced undergarments, rude staff, unfair advantages in the game, lack of background checks for some contestants, inadequate food and water at some times, and much, much, much more. Now, the new development of this has honestly left me even more disappointed. Mr. Beast recently released a statement about these accusations saying, quote, "We have tons of behind the scenes dropping when the show does to show how blown out of proportion these claims were. Just can't release now because it would spoil the games." Now, it doesn't take a genius to realize that dropping some behind the scenes footage is not going to actually address all the accusations. They will most likely post highly curated clips attempting to make themselves look good. Do you honestly think that Mr. Beast will release footage of people getting injured on his set? Do you think that he's going to release footage
We were watching
of
that
the crew member
yesterday.
who nearly died from a piece of the set falling on him? I don't think so. Jimmy, if you are telling the truth, let's hire a third party to review all of the raw footage. I'll cover the costs. I would love to confirm that these
Damn,
injuries are
she'll
indeed
cover the
blown
costs.
out of proportion, as you say. Until then, don't insult the people injured on your set by saying that these stories are blown out of proportion. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Amanda to hear her story. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how it came to be that you ended up on the Vegas portion of the Beast Games?
So I decided to be on Beast Games. It was June 1st of this year. It was my son's first day of summer. And we were just laying in bed together watching Mr. Beast overtakes T-Series. And so just in that cultural lore of YouTube. And in the process, we ended up deciding that I would apply to be a contestant on Beast Games. And that's a whole other story. But actually it involved Matthew Patrick, so Matt Pat. So I did this great little pitch video because I'm actually a PhD political scientist. And
right on. Awesome.
Well,
Go you. All right.
And long before the Game Theorist YouTube channel was founded by one Matthew Patrick, mathematicians for years had been using game theory, and economists, political scientists, sociologists use game theory in their own research, and I had used it in mine. And so my pitch video to Beast Games was, you need a real game theorist. You need a PhD game theorist on the Beast Games, because you have all these people on the internet playing game theorists. And so that was the essence of the pitch.
And I love it because you guys have met before. You've met Matt Pat and stuff at like different meetups, conventions, things like that.
That's right, through the years. And so it was actually one of my quests to get selfies with him each year. And it was one of these little challenges by my son, who's now 15.
Aww.
But this started when he was about 10. And I would get, I would meet up, or find them in the hallway or whatever it was, have some chance encounter and get a selfie. I went to Vid Summit in September of 2021. And I was wearing the Matt Pat jacket because I knew Matt Pat was giving a keynote. And of course, what better way to get my selfie for the year than to be wearing the jacket. And so he saw me. I was, 30 feet away. And this bellowing voice of Matthew Patrick, he says, "Nice jacket." And so I went up and I got a photo with him, but he was standing next to Jimmy Donaldson. And so they then did a little video together with a shout out to my son. And there I am wearing the red Matt Pat jacket. Yeah. So there's a long Matt Pat history with us, and also interweaving with Mr. Beast. And so it was a really great moment to go on Beast Games as a contestant. And I was mic'd by the producers. There were story producers at Beast Games that identified, 40, 50 contestants who were probably like the good storytellers, I would imagine. The story producers actually came up to me. It was 3 or 4 of them. And they knew who I was. And they came up and they said, "We know your name. You're Amanda, the game theorist."
Love it. Love it.
And I'd already decided I don't want to run around Beast Games as the game theorist. I feel like that's kind of boring and just academic. So I decided I need a game name for Beast Games. And so I went in as Mama Bear.
You did not?
Yeah, no, I was Mama Bear at Beast Games. Yeah. Yes,
I was just joking. You're such a mama bear. You literally even have a mama bear necklace. Like you're just, that's your vibe.
well, so I am also the founder of a community that is called Eat Like a Bear. The community formed around my weight loss. Back in 2017 to 2018, I lost 140 pounds.
It's amazing. It's incredible.
And that's a whole other story. But we have a lot of sort of bear lore in our community, so it was such a natural thing for me to go to Beast Games as Mama Bear.
I love what you stand for and the story that you were kind of bringing to the Beast Games.
Well, so I did enter Beast Games with a very positive and also maternal outlook. I had contestants coming up to me because the name Mama Bear really caught, and it's harder to remember. Oh, his name's Tim, or that's John, or Susan, or something. I had all kinds of people saying, "Hey, Mama Bear, there's Mama Bear," and they would come up to me and confide in me. I'm scared, and what's going to happen, and I would say to them, your mind only has room for so much emotion. Fill it with excitement. There will not be room for fear.
So when you first arrived, what was your experience before the game started?
The signs were all there, Rosanna, in the very beginning, because the day I was supposed to fly to Las Vegas, I was supposed to fly out of Fresno to Las Vegas, and we were supposed to get a 2-day advance on what our itinerary was. And I was supposed to fly on a Tuesday. Well, Monday night at midnight, I get my itinerary, except it's not mine. It is for a woman in Indianapolis. And so as a result, I don't know if she ever made it, but I didn't have an itinerary. And so I immediately emailed them saying, what's my itinerary? And it was supposed to be the next day. And so didn't hear back. I went to sleep and woke up that morning and thought, if I don't hear anything by 9 a.m., I'm just going to drive. It's a 6-hour drive. I'll drive. And I didn't hear anything. And so I emailed them again and said, hey, I'm driving. I'll see you there.
What a mess.
Because at that point, they did tell me what hotel I would be in. And so I just, Google Maps and, headed to the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas and showed up, was the only one parked there because everyone else had flown in.
To me, this already shows disorganization, just even with basic travel. This is awful.
And now looking back on all of it, just how ridiculous all of this was. And, I was so dedicated. I was just so dedicated as a contestant and as just like a super fan mom living in this great story. And I'm going to overcome all adversity, even if it's jumping in the car, and finding the Luxor myself and not worrying about that flight or whatever. And so, because it becomes an important detail that I did actually drive to Las Vegas because.
I sent you the wrong person's itinerary. Yes. Like they can't even keep people straight, even before it's even started.
Well, and they did finally respond to my email, but it was 6 p.m. that day.
Oh my goodness.
And so I would have long missed the flight and all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you drove yourself.
I did. And so it's an interesting point because as we'll discuss the incident of the concussion itself, but I drove myself back with a concussion because
oh my gosh.
I didn't actually realize I had the concussion until I had driven myself back.
Oh my gosh.
I was still in the adrenaline of the games and didn't imagine I had a concussion. I had no exit medical care from the games, despite the point that probably dozens of people saw me actually kicked, and no one referred me to nurses or to the ambulance or anything else. I didn't know I was kicked because apparently I blacked out momentarily. And so I just drove myself home because what else would you, I didn't imagine I was injured. I didn't imagine it. There on the I-15, I started getting extremely sleepy, like so sleepy. I have never felt that sleepy in my life. And I'm there on the open highway just struggling to keep my eyes open. And it's so horrifying as I think back on the multiple risks to my life that happened as a contestant.
So you find out you're on the show, and what was your understanding of what some of the challenges might be?
Yeah, I assumed it would be a mix of mental and physical. And I entered knowing that I was in probably the bottom, 10% in physical. I mean, especially given the age, it was mostly young people and mostly in very good shape. But I thought, okay, but if I bring enough of a mental game, I can probably find my way through. And so I expected to be challenged and expected that there would definitely be people who would be faster, of course, and would have other advantages. But we all have our own little bucket of assets we play in something like this. And so we just need to find what's going to work best for us and just play our hearts out. And so that was what I was prepared to do. And I was ready for hardships. I mean, I have hardships in my own life. I've overcome a lot of hardships. And so the first morning we were in this hotel conference room, a lot of hardships. And so the first morning we were in this hotel conference room with no chairs. We're just sitting on the floor and just meeting people. And we hadn't eaten.
Right.
And so we just sat there on the floor, no chairs, no nothing, for hours. And,
oh my gosh.
and yeah, it was not the best in terms of like being hosted or whatever, but I felt like that might have been intentionally part of the vibe of getting us ready for something that would be grueling. Like, okay, I'm here for it. I can sit on the floor. And so we transitioned from the hotel floor to Allegiant Stadium.
Right.
We did an orientation there, and they fed us our first tiny little meal. Oh my goodness, we could talk for hours just about like truly the food was austere. And even for me, but for some of these bigger guys, it was kind of ridiculous, but part of the game maybe. And so there we were. It was quite an adventure. we had our first big challenge the first night, and it is where there were 5 teams that pulled these giant rocks weighing, I don't know, 10,000 pounds or something like that. We can check the footage of the games as they're released. And that was, I was on the green team, because there's stories about how there was a team that was eliminated that was mostly women, and complaints about that. And it was very clear to me when I realized that how that game was going down, that I needed to get that green vest. And so I got the green vest. And so I was one of the slower people there, one of the older people, but I did manage the green vest.
Yeah.
And so there I felt, very accomplished having gotten through that first challenge.
Yeah, right on.
And so then we slept on the floor of Allegiant Stadium. By then, I think we went to sleep at about 6 a.m. So it was daylight, and they gave us sleeping masks so we could sleep in these sleeping bags on the floor of the stadium. And I probably got a few hours of sleep. And then we, kind of woke up, strolled around. That was the phase when there were a lot of people not getting their medications. I was definitely aware of people, firsthand in there who were actively trying to get their medications and were not able to get them. Luckily for me, none of that impacted me. I don't take any medications, and I was fine. And so sleeping on the floor, it was not a big issue for me. And so I was still in really good spirits about all of it, still really enjoying just meeting people and discussing, just having that shared experience with people. And everything was good at that point.
So you got through the first round, and then was the next game the suitcase game?
Yeah, the briefcase game.
Briefcase game.
And so, and he actually sells those briefcases now. So you can buy those briefcases at Walmart. And so I do think that this briefcase game was partly a marketing. Yeah, I do think this briefcase game was partly a marketing tool as well. And so all the moms out there can buy their kids a briefcase. And let's think about that for a little bit as I tell this story. The briefcase game, there's surely now footage about it as all this comes out. There were 4 teams.
4 teams.
4 teams of approximately 400 people each.
400 people each, about. Okay.
Yeah, because there were approximately 1,600 contestants at this phase of the game. And there was essentially a game board that had 400 briefcases in a grid pattern. And 50 of the briefcases had a sign in it that was red that said eliminated. And 350 said safe, and they were green. And so the trick was to get a green briefcase, and then you would move on to the next round.
So when you're looking at them, can you tell which ones are red or green?
So that is the entire game right there. They put a digital map up on the wall for maybe a minute before the game, and then they turned it off. And then the digital map would flash up on the wall, and you could see where the green ones and where the red ones were. And because what you would need to do is mentally map those briefcases, I was assessing where on that perimeter would I have the least competition. And because I was looking at, there were some groups of, big, fast guys. Do I want to go in their area, or, how do I want to handle that? I knew I was probably stronger on the mental game than I knew I was totally weak on the speed.
Yeah.
That's fine. Let us fast guys get like the closer cases. But I'm going to map 3, 4, 5 cases down the row, and then just go, and I'll get something. I'll be fine.
You strategically think where you're going to go, assuming like really fast young contestants are going to go for the ones right up front, that you're mapping out the one that's a little further and you think that you have a shot at getting.
Yeah, I'm mapping deeper into the game, and because all the fast guys are getting the first ones. That's fine. Let them have it. That's good. That's fine.
I wouldn't get them either. I have little legs. So you're all there, 400 people about to go run for these briefcases, and Jimmy, Mr. Beast, says no pushing, no kicking. What were the rules that he said?
Those are the only ones I really remember. It was like no pushing or tripping, kicking. It was either 2 or all 3 of those things. Yeah. And the rule was we would line up around it, and on the word go, we would make a run for it. And whoever touched the briefcase first is the one who got it. And so some people looked like they tied. They would go back to the camera to see who touched it first. So there were some little rules like that.
Yeah.
But in terms of me and my injury, what I didn't appreciate is in this grid that there would essentially be cross traffic. This is a very important point. I was not able to view the game before my round. So when people watch the YouTube video, they are going to see the camera view, like the overhead cameras, and they're going to have a really good view of what happened. And they're going to say, wow, how did Amanda not imagine that there wouldn't be cross traffic or whatever else? Well, yeah, it's very obvious when you're looking from above what is about to happen. And in fact, that was the whole point of that article that came out of Las Vegas in September, the NBC affiliate. That article was about how the production crew was watching from the bleachers.
Yeah.
And they were horrified at what they were seeing.
Yes. I think that it's just awful that anybody's viewpoint is to blame contestants and not the game controllers, the people who are creating the games, executing the games, producing the games, running the games. It's their responsibility to keep people safe, and especially not as much enforcement as they should have. And one of the contestants who I talked to said that she witnessed a male fully tackle a female, full body contact tackler knocked her out. And he was allowed to move on to the next round.
I am so horrified because I've heard that story too.
Yeah.
And it only occurs to me right now that they may be talking about me because this is what happened. And it's only being on the couch all these weeks and really like processing all this that makes me even realize this. So, because what happened is I was there and I'm behind like some tall, fast guys. You know, he says, go. And I'm just running my heart out, you know, and I'm ready. I have it mentally mapped. And so I'm running and I never saw it coming because what happened was, just a few aisles down was this center corridor. Well, apparently what someone else decided to do was to run down and then cut in.
Run and cut, right. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm just running my heart out. And when I just feel the, and so I mean, it's just so shocking. And I remember that, like just my whole right side. And
you just felt that blow.
I felt the blow. And then I remember just, I'm on the floor and realizing I could be trampled. And so in my like strong survival instinct, luckily, I scrambled up and I was able to get back on my feet. And then just, I imagine that, you know, if we could see the footage, I'd kind of like to see the footage.
I would love for them to release all the raw footage.
We need the raw footage. In fact, in the 2-hour video that I have on my channel, I say at the end that Amazon needs to do the documentary and that you need to be the producer. So that
I
is in
would
there.
love to do that documentary, Amazon. If you ever have a change of heart and would like to work with people who actually care about people, you let me know.
So yeah, so it would be interesting to see it. But I don't know if you would see those cartoon like stars going around my head, you know, on the footage, because it was one of those moments of like,
gosh.
And so I kind of stumble into the aisle.
Was it a guy?
Okay.
Do you even know? Because you just got blasted. What happened?
I know his face, and I will tell you this because this is not actually in the 2-hour video. I am certain it was a guy, and I'll tell you why. I'm certain it was a guy.
Yeah.
So I kind of stumbled to a case because at that point it all happened so quickly. Everyone's at a case. And so
chaos. Well, it's just chaos unleashed.
Yeah. And so I'm going down this aisle and then I see a case, you know, like over there. And it's just this one lone case. And I know it's a red one. And so I was stunned. And, you know, I felt sick. Like I didn't imagine my end was coming so quickly. Now, the thing is, I'm not a sore loser, any of that. I'm like, you know what? If this is the way it ends, so be it. I need to give my speech.
Yeah.
So they even have a speech that I gave there on the floor of that after being eliminated.
While you have a concussion.
It's really what makes it scandalous because I gave that, though, you know, they're going to say, wow, she looked fine. Well, I'm sure I was in adrenaline or whatever else. They did.
Adrenaline, dazed and confused. I mean.
Well, and the reality is they had many people watching those cameras and they had me mic'd. The story producers were watching the mic'd contestants in particular, I think. And I told Carl Jacobs, hey, I just got knocked down. Check the tapes, because I was so much in my game that I said, what if, when I got knocked down, what if I touched the case before that guy did? And he should be eliminated instead of me. And so I told Carl.
There's no contact. He should have not pushed or kicked you. That should not have been allowed. That guy should have been eliminated.
He should have been eliminated. So I told Carl Jacobs,
check the tapes. Yeah.
Check the tapes. He said, oh yeah, we'll check the tapes. Well, he never came back to me. So when they checked the tapes to see if I touched the briefcase first, they, I think, would have noticed that I got kicked in the head. And so how many people actually knew? And apparently, if I am the person behind the story of someone getting full on tackled, how many people actually knew that I got kicked in the head? Now, I didn't even know I was kicked in the head because, as an important point, I apparently did black out. So I remember the collision, like just the initial, and I remember being on the floor, and I know I scrambled up. And I know I remembered that there were feet at my head, and that is where that's when I'm like, better get the heck up. And so I did not know I was kicked. I didn't. They did an exit interview with me. Would you be back? Would you come back to a Mr. Beast production? I'm like, yeah, of course, because I am
dazed and confused and have a concussion.
Well, yes, all of that, but also, I wasn't there thinking I was winning $5 million. I was there for the story, and so I'm, not a sore loser or whatever else. I just thought, okay, let me give my speech. So, and yeah, I'd come back. Well, all of that just shows at that time I didn't appreciate what had just happened to me. And it really did take those weeks on the couch and hearing the stories that came off of your platform, that came from the New York Times, and then some of the stories that came from the Dog Pack 404 expose, particularly the second one, that showed some of the organizational issues that Mr. Beast was having, that made me realize this was all part of a larger package, I suspect, and it made it more important to me to try to impact change in some way. To at least, for me, to do the thing that I felt was right and let the chips fall where they may.
I really relate to like exit interviews because I've been on a reality show where after I was eliminated, we did an exit interview and I said very kind things in the moment. And I think that that is very normal. And also I don't want to say aren't in the right state of mind, but I think what's really important for people watching is to understand that you haven't had the time to process what just happened because it's moving so fast and it's so extreme and it's wild and it's chaotic that, especially for me who's a slow processor, I didn't have enough time when I went on a reality show to even process. So one of the things that Mr. B's production team said, they made a big point of it, is that they were going to review footage and they were going to go over contestants who were unfairly treated and bring back contestants that shouldn't have been eliminated. Did they ever reach out to you?
No, they didn't. And I did hear that too from them, that I think they sent out an email to contestants saying that basic thing, that they were reviewing all the footage. And so now I was so injured at that point, I would not have actually been able to attend the Toronto games. But I was really expecting to be invited because I was wrong.
What do you mean?
I
Like, what does that
expected
mean?
also to hear what they were doing about the person who kicked me, because you know, they could position it as an accident, which I think would be somewhat fair. But in fact, they never have had any kind of conversation with me at all about this, and I was not invited back. Again, I could not have attended it. I had a severe concussion.
Right.
Yeah. But I want to say this, that there were other injuries at Beast Games. I know personally of other people who were injured, and I suspect that many of them will not be telling their stories. And the reason is that we are speaking. This is a delicate situation. It's delicate. It's controversial. There are legal issues, and I realized that I was at this fork in the road. I could speak out and potentially reduce the chances of future injuries. The risk of that is there's a legal risk. And frankly, any lawyer, which by the way, I don't have a lawyer, because I suspect my lawyers would say, don't come do an interview. Because lawyers are really good at keeping you from, getting sued into the gutter. And that would be their purpose. I have been poor multiple times in my life. I'm currently fairly poor just from this whole circumstance. And the gutter doesn't scare me. I can survive in the gutter for a very long time. What scares me more is 6, 12 months from now, some major injury happens, and I hadn't said anything.
What you're saying really resonates with me because I've talked to over 200 contestants from Beast Games and almost about 50 employees and former employees of Mr. Beast, and they said the same thing, that the sets and the shoots were dangerous.
And the issue here is there's no oversight. And so all that a future contestant can really count on, or the information that I had was, for instance, there was a Time magazine piece in February where set safety was brought up, but then the Mr. Beast organization responded with, oh no, we work to improve that all the time. And then they have videos like the one with, sometime in the last year, with Mac and his Greatest Fears video. And he ends up in the lake, diving down in the lake. And Mr. Beast says, oh, if you were concerned about his safety, just know that we have like 12 divers down there and they were ready to rescue him if he needed to be rescued. And so those were some of the signals that I heard as a potential contestant. And I signed a liability waiver that yes, I could risk death. But I signed that assuming that they actually did tend to set safety, and that there were a dozen divers or whatever the detail was, in the Mac video, and that may or may not be true. I have no idea, but there wasn't that level of care in the Beast Game set. I would think a dozen people saw the kick, and I had 0 exit medical care.
It's completely unacceptable.
So the circumstance of the kick itself is unacceptable. I would say to them, I need to speak to a producer. So trying to tell them, I just got knocked down. I need to speak to a producer.
Yeah,
Each one I was saying,
knocked down.
I was saying to them, I got knocked down. And they were saying, oh no, we don't know a producer. But the point is, I told many people that I had just gotten knocked down.
Right.
Now, to be clear, I didn't ask where the nurse was.
And you even told Carl, which is Mr. Beast's one of his inner crew members. They're a very close, tight team.
That's correct, and I have 2 selfies with Carl that in my 2-hour-long video that everyone should watch. If you don't watch it all, you can go to the very end and see the selfies, including 2 with Carl Jacobs.
So one of the things that bothers me is when some people say, well, you were free to leave at any time. So do you have any thoughts about that?
Absolutely. And that is really the essence of what I took to the Las Vegas Police Department as well. And by the way, everyone, Ro, welcome to my TED Talk. Seriously, I gave an actual TED Talk.
No, you did. Oh my gosh, you did.
On this topic about a decade ago. And it is about the concept of free choice. And so, but let me first back up before we talk about the TED Talk and just reemphasize that I did not have the information that other people had about the danger of the game board. Right. So production assistants viewed it from the bleachers. We were not allowed to go into the bleachers to view it. We viewed the game from the floor of Allegiant Stadium.
Right.
And I'm 5'2". And I was, I don't know, a few rows behind people. So it's when you're viewing between the shoulders of people and you see a tiny slice of the game. And so I didn't see this risk of like crossways traffic and all that.
Right.
I simply didn't see it. And so it wasn't part of my calculus and my strategy. So I thought I could just like run freely and get that case and I'd be okay. That it was really a matter of being fast enough to get to one of these cases and being, like mentally sharp enough to be able to map enough cases that I was probably going to be fine. And that is how I viewed it. That was the view that I had. of course, compare that to Mr. Beast's view as he stood on a pedestal above all of us. He saw the mayhem of the 2 games before mine,
Right.
and of my game, and of the next game. He had a great view. All the cameras, they had lots of overhead cameras, and they had people viewing those camera rooms, and they would have been able to see the risk. But I could not see the risk from the floor of Allegiant Stadium. And so, yes, I was free to be there. Yes, I signed a liability waiver. All of that, I absolutely could have gone at any time. But was this then an exercise in free choice? And that is the question. And so, again, welcome to the TED Talk.
Yeah.
So the essence of the TED Talk, this is a decade ago, and it's on an entirely different topic, and it has to do with the choice of raw milk. That just being able to reach for this milk versus this milk. But we need to know cognitively something about the difference between those choices. And so the information we have about those choices really affects whether our choice of raw milk or pasteurized milk is free. It's only free if we have enough information about the difference between the choices. Therein lies free choice. And
Right.
so take that to Beast Games. And my physical ability to walk through that exit door, and the fact that I didn't, is it a sign that my concussion and my injury comes from my exercising free choice? Well, I argue that I didn't have the information about the risk. And in fact, it was kept from me because I was not allowed to view from the bleachers, because I was told there would be no kicking and no pushing.
There's supposed to be no contact. You know, it's not, you weren't supposed to be hitting, kicking, tackling contestants. And the fact that that did happen to you, someone else is breaking the rules and they're not enforcing it, and you got injured.
Right. That was the rule.
Right.
So color me surprised that I would be tackled in a game that would not allow tackling.
Right. Right.
So was it an exercise in free choice? No.
So you somehow make it home driving with a concussion, and just thank goodness you didn't get in an accident. You got home. Could you kind of walk us through what the next days and weeks were for you?
So yes, to just reiterate, I didn't know at that time as I was driving back that I had a concussion. And that was a Sunday. The injury was early Saturday morning. The drive back was Sunday. It was Monday that I realized I had a goose egg on my head, right on the back of my head. I had an abrasion. And the symptoms, besides the sleepiness that had come on that drive, by Monday, the headaches and the nausea began. And that is when I realized I must have a concussion. And so I went to urgent care, and I was diagnosed with that, and with a left bruised rib. They did an x-ray to see if there was any sign of evidence that it was broken.
Oh my gosh, you had a bruised rib?
Well, and I was kicked in the calves. So I had bruising on my calves as well. And so that was urgent care. That was Monday. And then Thursday I went into my primary care doctor, and then began
I was
meeting
muted.
with her once a week, I believe, for the first
Haha,
time.
I
And she would do
said,
this concussion battery score
guys,
every
lose your
week, and that's what she
hand
does
or
for her high
lose your
school
D
football.
in
Who
Squid
high
Games.
schoolers
I
who were
chose
injured.
lose your
And so we're
D
doing this little
because
concussion
I
battery
already
every week.
don't have one.
And she was just giving me some of the general medical advice. In that first week, I was sure that this is like a 1-week recovery. Maybe it's 2. So and by the end of the second week, I'm thinking, this is really short, almost over. And I didn't even imagine or even want to process that it could be much bigger and longer term. So it was at the 6-week point that I had that concussion score again, and it wasn't showing signs of decline as it should have.
Right. And for anyone who's watching or listening who isn't familiar with a concussion score, this is a score that a doctor does after you've had a concussion to see where you're at, right? Is that how it?
Yeah, so this one was it's like a list of symptoms, and you rate the scale of severity of something like sensitivity to light,
right,
or loud noises. So there's a whole list of things that are common concussion
What
symptoms,
if you
and
were
you just rate them, and you're tracking your change over time. And so I had made some slight changes on those different things, but apparently not nearly what they would expect at the 6-week point.
Then you lose your job.
And that is when she ordered an MRI. So up to that point, I had not received an MRI, which, by the way, that's the key tool that they use to assess whether you've had a brain bleed. And the fact that I did not receive an MRI in Las Vegas, as I look back, I'm horrified, because that is when they identify a brain bleed.
Shouldn't be a job.
The concern, and the reason they try to identify it is you can die in your sleep.
Should
and so there
be
I was for
banned.
6 weeks, not even knowing if I had a bleed. And then it took 6 more weeks of insurance bureaucracy before I actually finally got the MRI. And so I got the MRI.
I don't know.
So during this time, what was Mr. Beast production company's communication with you? Were they doing anything to help the process along? Where were they in this?
Oh, certainly not at that stage. And so I was in contact with them in that first week. And so the urgent care visit was on a Monday, and I sent a photo of like the diagnosis to a Mr. Beast producer. Right. And so I'm sure it went into my profile that I have a concussion. And I spoke to 2 producers that week when they called all the contestants and
detrimental it is on
society, and told them about the concussion. And then a couple of days later, I'm going to say it might have been Friday of that week, that one of the producers did ask in about me. She sent me a text, and I said, I'm fine, because at that point, again, I'm thinking, I got another week. You know what I mean? I'm not imagining what is in front of me. And again, I'm trying to be positive. And I still was so much a super fan of the organization, and just leaning into like, okay, I'm going to recover. It's all going to be okay. And again, never imagining I would be sitting here discussing this with you and looking at a year-long recovery from a brain injury. And so from there, I got some general emails from the Mr. Beast organization, like, hey, submit your tax form, stuff like that. And they said they were going to be switching their communication system over and using a text-based system, but I never heard about that. And so I believe it was around September 1st that I emailed them and said, hey, did you guys ever set that thing up? Maybe I missed it because, I do have a concussion and might not be catching all your communications.
Yeah.
And I never heard back from them on that email. And then I sent them another email in mid-September kind of with the same flavor, and didn't hear back on that either.
Ghosted.
Yes. Yes.
recovery process was really long. This is over 6 weeks. So what were the symptoms you were experiencing?
In the first 6 weeks, definitely the persistent headache, nausea, and fatigue.
Yeah.
Fatigue has been
People
the biggest
get
thing for me
addicted
in
to all
of
sorts
these
of things.
weeks.
Yeah,
I
like
will say
that's
I
exactly
felt like
like
I was 80 years old, and I could not.
I
recover
can't
from
say
fatigue.
that
There was a time,
that
it was maybe about the 12 to 14
porn
week point,
necessarily
where I went out
had
and walked 2 miles,
as
just like in
much
the
of a
neighborhood. 2 miles,
detriment
that's
to
it. In
society
July,
as, say,
I was able
like
to hike 10 to 15
drugs or
miles, 2,000 feet
something,
elevation
or
with
like
no
I don't
recovery
know.
problem at all. I mean, at all. It was fine.
Badass.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Maybe maybe I
Yes, I
personally
was, and I
haven't
will be
been
again.
too much affected
But
by it,
2
but
miles, and I was exhausted for 2 days. Like, you know how you hear that about like your grandma?
You're like,
And
something isn't right. Yeah. That's not normal for you. That's not,
it's
it's not who you are.
so devastating. So devastating. Okay. I will not get emotional. I simply have not been able to do what I could do.
gambling addiction
And
is probably the
fatigue
worst.
has been the biggest issue. So that was that walk was
True.
the 12 to 14 week point, and now we're at about 5 months at this point. And I'm so excited and proud of myself because I walked 3 miles the other day, flat land, no elevation, but flat land, and didn't have a recovery problem. And so then the next time I'll walk 3.5, and I'll try it. And I'm getting back. I'm coming back.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
coming
driven.
back.
You're a fighter.
I am coming back, but it's been difficult.
Now
And
she
so
can't
the headaches have
drive
continued. They're getting better. And the
Indie
nausea is
cars
getting better.
anymore. Wait, what do you
I have
mean?
really strange earaches. That just it's like the
What do
outer
you
part of my ear. It's not
mean?
like inside, and I get actual ear pain. Like my lobes hurt to the touch, and it's just very strange. And I get those, when I'm stressed or not sleeping as well and stuff like that. And it's definitely from the concussion. I've never had anything like that before.
Yeah.
Those are getting a little bit better. So it will all get better. But the doctor is definitely having me focus on a 1-year trajectory. And I made that realization in September, and so that would have been about 8 weeks, realizing how difficult this was going to be. And again, our Eat Like a Bear vision for ourselves and weight loss is what will our lives look like in 1 year. And so I went to our community in September and said, I think I have a 1-year recovery. And so, and many of them are joining me in this goal, but sorry, pardon my emotions.
No, it's fine.
1 year from September of 2024. So I announced to them September 21st of 2025. I don't know where I'll be, but I'll be out somewhere on a trail. One that even 7 years ago I wasn't able to access, that I can't access now either. Yeah. But that's where I'll be. And so part of coming here and talking to you today is processing this, is getting past this point.
She was.
I need
Was she
this
really
story
in any
out
shape
there,
to be in a competition?
and I need to be able
I
to be
mean,
out
I
there
don't think that's
and not worry. That somebody else is
like you're really victim blaming
if they are.
Plugster. You're really gonna victim blame when Mr. Beast made it open to all ages or whatever. Come on now.
God bless them. Let people make their choices.
Like, I don't know. I don't know
what they're going to be involved in. Let them have their free choice to do this thing. And I fully support that, but let there be no more situations like this. And I need to be free. Be free.
Was
of
in
that.
NASCAR.
So as you see me in social media, that is what I'm going to be doing all this year. Is you'll see me hiking. I'll be live streaming from a trail.
By the way, the competition that whatever I watched, because I watched it yesterday, like via Asmund Gold's video. It doesn't look like anyone was running around. Like, they were all in the same spot the entire time, doing, like, whatever kind of challenges, but, like, nobody had to run around. So, I don't know, like, for me, it doesn't even look like a physically, but anyway, it's open to all ages, so that's...
Unhinged. Who knows?
Besides the point.
Because an interesting thing is, in terms of working with the doctors,
Sir, don't victim blame.
A specialized center at UCSF.
Yeah.
And I shared my frustration with them.
He shares blame. No, he doesn't. He didn't.
And just really good at like juggling all the stuff you have to do.
He just said everything's fine.
It's hard.
Nothing's
There's a lot of
wrong.
Fielding the questions or getting trolled. By the way, I love bring them on.
Oh,
by the way, I like bring the trolls.
Silly.
And so it's always been great, but has been very difficult for me to like juggle.
Besides, it's not just like she got hurt. It's like, why did they have like tiny meals? Why were they sleeping on the floor? Like, it just doesn't sound very. It's like, this is Mr. Beast. This isn't like a pilot to like some indie film, like some indie show. You know what I mean? This isn't some like indie show. So what's with all the like crappy like handling of the contestants?
Cognitive balls. And so talking with the therapist about it, what they say is, you need to do more, not less.
If you sign up
so
to
that
do
is gonna be
something
one
that
of my
involved
big
your
things.
legs, ended up with
recovery
serious
and
injury,
challenging
part of it would be on you
yourself,
for
mentally
being
and
dumb enough to
physically,
enter, though the
within
majority of the
reason,
blame
but,
is on
they think
whoever
that's an important part
runs
of,
the event.
recovery and
Absolutely.
A band
stimulation
stage
and
dive.
getting things going
You need
and coming
to
here today
find the
and doing such a
article,
long
and
interview
the
that
woman
I
the guy
agree.
landed
Well,
on
and-
is
'cause
now
I had
is
no idea, but I
paralyzed
thought,
now, and
so
and the
let's just
venue
do it. Let's
paid
just
out
see.
insurance.
But I have a lot of cognitive lapses. So it's
See,
not only is there the
like
head.
that sucks. What the fuck? I was in a mosh pit once. I think I got kicked in the head. I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I needed to, like, the freaking securities had to grab me out of there because I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. I'm gonna get hurt.
Headaches,
And yeah, that was not fun.
nausea, and that sort of thing, which are going down. Thank goodness. And we want to see them continue to go down. That is a sign that I can make a full recovery. I'm making a full recovery. I'm making full recovery. And so if it takes longer than, all these things always take longer than you hope. So we're already there.
Like you see people her age going on things like Survivor, and you see them get hurt. Are you then going to say, what were you thinking going on Survivor? Like, she can do what she wants.
Already longer than we hope. But one
she
of
could do what she
odd
wants.
things and that affect the live videos as well is I'll have cognitive lapses.
She could do what she wants, including going on a podcast and talking about her experience.
My son had a cheeseburger in his hand. He'd gotten it at school and brought it home. It was like school lunch. And I looked at it and I said, oh, what a good-looking sandwich.
The band is at fault, though, for sure.
And I stared
But
at it.
she said that they had rooms at Luxor, or sleeping at the stadium doesn't make sense. It's like right across the street.
I know. I'm so horrified by that, but it's just to give an example.
It's like on the tip of the tongue, the tip of the brain.
And so I find myself
we're trying to figure out, like, because there's, this controversy that people aren't being treated appropriately or whatever at Beast Games, and then Beast coming out and saying it's all lies. So, or no, that was actually not related to this. The thing that he's denying was like the previous workplace inappropriateness or whatever. I don't know if they really touched on Beast Games that much. I don't. So maybe, I don't know.
These symptoms, and
let's
it's very
see what
shocking
happens.
because it was just 5 months ago. I was at my peak. I was out completely living my best. As I was preparing for Beast Games, I was out. I was jogging, which, by the way, I decided I don't really like, but because I never jogged before. But Matt Pat said you need to work on your cardio, and so I did.
Yeah,
I worked on my cardio. Matt Pat, I worked on my cardio.
Yeah, and you were like feeling better than ever. You were like,
yeah,
this is
because I was coming from Matt Pat.
I felt so healthy. You're like.
I was swimming. For the first time, I was lake swimming, and which I don't know. It seems obvious now. Like, why hadn't I gone lake swimming before? And it was so amazing. And so,
sorry, it just reminds me of like when Princess Catherine was missing for like 6 months, and the royal palace or whatever, the royal family's like, oh, she's been enjoying nighttime swims in the lake, and this like weird ass like shit. When we just wanted to know what's like, why is she like in hiding? What's going on? Like, is she actually okay? What happened here? I still wonder, because there was, even when she came back, there was still some iffiness.
Winning all the time. That's not too far from away. It's a really wonderful experience. And so I was discovering some things and was really just at my peak. Yeah. And then I was kicked in the head.
Then you got injured on Beast Games.
And I was literally for 2 weeks, I was in the complete darkness in a sleep mask for most of the hours of the day with earplugs and with like complete brain rest.
Can't go into mosh pits. And you are semi-wheelchair bound. Imagine they pick you up and carry you around.
What happened to you is obviously physically draining. It's your head, it's your brain.
I can see that.
It's your health, but it's also emotionally draining. Like, how has it affected your everyday life now?
I'm interested to see what like Mr. Beast will say. If has he said anything about this?
It's completely shaped all of my life now. I haven't gotten back to my work. I'm getting back to some of the normal life things, thankfully, but I'm not able to drive long distances. Currently, I can drive, my maximum right now is about 90 minutes, which to me is quite a tether.
Not being able to drive is a huge tether.
And I don't drive at night now, and that's, I hope to get that back as well, but I'm not able to drive at night. I was able to drive at night, July, and I am now not able to drive at night.
Yeah, so it also is sounding like this has affected you financially. I mean, with medical stuff.
Absolutely, my medical expenses, but also my inability to work. And first, let me just say, I'm so grateful that, that I'm not homeless or something, that we've been able to just kind of get by in this circumstance, but I am not able to do the analytical work that was making the money. Like on the platform of Eat Like the Bear, the stuff that I had been doing, I am not able to do now. And I haven't been able to do, we are at our poorest that we've been in a very long time. But it is really our worst moment, I would say now. Yeah. And it is directly, absolutely, because of getting kicked in the head. I really thought I was going to have brain surgery because my local doctors thought I would. But what happened was that the local doctors and what they saw, they thought, wow, we need to refer you to a surgeon. And so they referred me to a surgeon at UCSF who then did an analysis and said, nope, this is all about no, you're not going to need surgery, but you do need help with this traumatic brain injury. Wow. And so I was referred to a specialized institute at UCSF for traumatic brain injuries. Yes.
They're good.
And that was a game changer for me. And it was, I don't know, 18 weeks or something before I would have that appointment, but it was a long journey in getting to that level of care.
You were showing me this really long video that you had made that was you documenting what was happening to you, and I felt like there was really good information in there, and it also was just really heartbreaking to like learn about the whole process and what was going on. And is that video going to be public? Is that something that you're going to share? What do you think about that?
I will be making that video public on the Eat Like a Bear channel. Yeah. And it's a 2-hour long video. So yes,
it's long. Yeah, it's a movie.
It's long, and it actually is mostly shot at a period back in October when I thought I was going to have brain surgery. And so it's a really raw, real video. And my intention in shooting it, I was going through estate planning at that time, as you would do is when you're going to face something like brain surgery. And knowing that I intended to take this to the police and would end up with a lawyer at some point, I sat down and attempted to record like the key facts and things like where the cameras were, what kind of information they could get from this microphone or that microphone, and just a very fact-oriented discussion of all these different things. So it goes into more detail on especially the briefcase game, my view of the game, and the thing about like my exit medical care, more detail than we've been able to discuss today. But also the MatPat story is in there. There's an amazing video at the end where Mr. Beast and MatPat give a shout out to my son. And so there's so much YouTube lore in that video, and which makes it, I mean, the whole thing is completely heartbreaking, completely.
Thank you so much for coming over here and sharing your story. And I'm
Thank
so
you.
sorry.
I am sorry.